Today's episode discusses more front office moves, moves around the Central, and bullpen grades for the 2024 season. You're listening to the Bucko Banter podcast, brought to you by the Just Baseball Media Network. Cue the music.
Rockin' 101, she compliment my taste. Whiskey in my lemonade, cause I like the way it tastes. Best seats at the Pirates, can they let me run the base? Yeah, my time is like my money, cause I can't afford to waste. Wifey is a lawyer, take my date to my dates. Order steak by the plate, sending case after case. Run my race at my pace, clear the grass of the snake.
Adam, welcome back, man. Midweek episode. Not a ton to talk about, but we got some things to get out of the way. I think we should clear the air first about some comments we made on the last episode. Should we start there?
Yeah, absolutely. Take the floor.
All right. So there's a little bit of pushback. People said that we were glazing the Dodgers, if you will. And I understand where you might get that, okay, from listening to our discussion. But I think a few people may have misinterpreted what we were trying to get across. So our apologies if we didn't get our point across well enough. But let me just explain myself real quick, and Adam, you can chime in first. I just want to say, I think I said this on this episode, on the episode with Noah. I understand the Dodgers have a bigger war chest to work with than most of the league. That's undeniable. We all know that. Okay, they've got deeper pockets, and they're in LA. They have a big brand. It's an easy sell, right? It's easier to sell LA than Pittsburgh. But on top of that, they're also spending a higher proportion of the money they're bringing in compared to the rest of the league. Like, there was a Travis Sawchik posted an article where, he showed a table of all the TV revenues that each team was making and the percentage that each team was spending of those TV revenues. Like, the Dodgers is like blowing people out of the water in terms of how much money they're spending. And yeah, they're making more because they've got the Japanese TV market. They've got all the Japanese endorsement deals. But point being, they're spending money to win now. Like, they're going to worry about the later. And
Yeah.
if they come out of this decade, out of the 2020s with 5 World Series, like the late 90s Yankees, I don't think they're going to care about their finances in the 2030s. Like, it was worth it. And they want to win. And I think that's like a lesson that we could take. We understand the differences between them and the other organizations, but they're spending money to win now.
Yeah. And we're also not saying that there's not this huge parity in baseball. Like, there is. Like, there's a huge difference between the big market teams and the small market teams like the Pirates. We understand the Pirates, like you said, can't do what the Dodgers are doing, what the Yankees are doing, or what the Blue Jays are even doing, or the Red Sox, or these teams offering $700 million contracts to one player. It's never going to be the case, and we're still going to give pushback ourselves against that and fight for more of an equal playing field. But it's hard to knock a team for trying.
Yeah.
Right? Just because they win and just because like the big bad bully on the block doesn't mean they're doing something wrong. Like, if you're given those resources and you're given that opportunity, maybe because the team is liquid and they're able to move these pieces around, so be it. Like, those are the cards we're dealt with. That's the unfortunate reality of baseball at the moment. Whether that changes in the future, whether there's a cap and all these TV deals are equal and we're able to kind of level the playing field, that's just what it's going to be like. So I'm not going to sit here and just whine about the Dodgers and how baseball is unfair and how the Pirates are never going to be spending all this money on free agents, because it's just not reality. And we have to face that, and we just have to keep like moving forward.
Yeah, man. I will say that I will be the first to tell you that every time the Dodgers sign someone different, I'm like, oh, are you serious? Like, I don't want to see anyone else go to the Dodgers as much as you.
Of course.
Or any of our followers. I just don't. Okay. But at the same time, this is our reality, man. This is our reality. This isn't changing. Everyone calling for a salary cap. Like, it's just not going to happen when you've had antitrust exemption for this long, and the league has been set up like this way for decades and decades. Players union would never agree to that. Why would they? There's unlimited earning. And I get the whole argument, like, hey, look at the NBA, like they're Giannis, like he would never play in Milwaukee or choose to play in Milwaukee unless, you know, in this situation. I get all that, but I think something that might be a little bit more useful, like we have a de facto salary cap, if you will, and I know people will probably comment on that when I say that, is a luxury tax. And there's levels to that due to Steve Cohen and some other really rich owners. But I think something that would be very useful for teams like the Pirates and the Rays and the Guardians and the A's is a salary floor. And I've been advocating for that for a very long time. Like, hey, you have to spend 100 million at the minimum going into 2025. And that right there makes you bring in like, hey, let's bring in some veterans on 1-year deals and maybe flip them at the deadline. But the maybe we're not competing this year, but the product will be much more watchable than doing the Orioles and Astros version of complete teardown and putting a AA team on the field for 3 years and hoping you find some diamonds in the rough. Like no one really likes to watch that baseball. And I think, I'm much more for the rebuild where you're signing veterans and you put a watchable product on the field, but you're also like there's an understanding that you're not competing right now. And I know like that might hurt your draft stock in some instances, but you need to have assets along with drafting well. And the draft is a crapshoot. You need to also have assets to flip that have value in order to build your team. There's multiple ways to build your team, but you need to have every avenue open.
I think what you said there defines the Pirates perfectly, or what the Pirates should be doing in terms of how they run a successful baseball team, right? Before it was, let's go out and find a bargain, a Rowdy Tellez to go play first base. Let's throw G1 Bay out there and see what you can get out of him and so forth. Instead of maybe focusing on the coaching, the front office moves, the scouting, everybody that goes into baseball operations, which seems like the tides are turning and they're starting to put the focus more on that, which is probably more important for a team like the Pirates than any other team, right? For small market teams to have the wherewithal to say, okay, we're not going to spend the money. We have an owner that is historically cheap. So nothing's going to change. So our GM, our coach, our strength and conditioning, our mental skills coach, our player development, pro scouting, like everybody has to be on the same page and clicking in order to get it right. Okay. Yeah. You don't have the luxury of going and signing a guy on a multi-year contract for $60 million and then he's not good, right? Because then you're just back to square one again. You have to get it right the first time. And that's what's going to be key going into this offseason is one, addressing the absolute need. So bullpen, corner, outfield, potentially an infielder, adding to the rotation, getting creative, like we always say with these moves. But it also has to be calculated because you are the Pittsburgh Pirates, because you don't have the luxury like the Dodgers and the Yankees. You can't mess up and just say, oh, well, let's go spend the money again, because you mess up once and it sets you back a year.
The margin for error is that much smaller.
It's a lot smaller, man. So I like the moves that the Pirates are making right now in terms of scouting, mixing that up. The international scouting has been poor, so let's get that changed. Let's make more front office moves, baseball operations. They're going to be bringing in a new scouting director here soon.
Farm director.
Exactly. Hadi Rod, who was the professional evaluation team leader with Pittsburgh, is now with the Giants. He was with the Marlins prior to coming to Pittsburgh. He was instrumental, I believe the words that our friend Andrew Destin used in his Post-Gazette article, in BDLC's development in Miami, and then instrumental in bringing him over here for the prospects in Garrett Forrester and Jungshuk Shim. So maybe this isn't such a bad move, right? Like maybe it didn't work here. There's a little bit of differences in what the Pirates are valuing, and the Pirates by no means got rid of him. He took
I was going to say that too.
He took a better job.
Yeah.
Let's
get that
I'm
wrong. I'm pretty sure he's running. He's scouting coordinator or something like that. He got it sounded like a bump. I don't know. Some teams, the way they name these positions, it's different everywhere, but it sounded like he got a promotion.
Yeah, he definitely did, but I think change is necessary, right? Because the moves that he advocated for probably just didn't work out here, right? So
BDLC to the Giants. Should we put money on that?
Apparently he loves BDLC because he followed him from Miami to Pittsburgh. Or BDLC did at least, and he was a big part of that. But yeah, we can get caught up in the game of baseball, right? Like the America's pastime, like nothing changes. It's old school, but like I want to give you a little bit of pushback on like how it's just not going to change, right?
Okay.
I think short term, it's not going to change, but we have seen material changes to the game as of late, right? You got the pitch clock, which was a great change, in my opinion. The runner on second base, which is, I think, a drastic change from the game of baseball on how it's supposed to be played and not changing the rules. Like that's about as deep as it gets, right?
Mhm.
Like you're really you're putting a ghost runner on base for extra innings. Like that's a lot. And there's people that absolutely hate that, and there's people that love it. There's more changes coming. I think when it comes to popularizing the game around the states and around the world and getting more eyes on these players. But there's also some proposed rules, Scott, that just have no business being in the game of baseball. You know what I'm referring to. The golden at bat that was floated around this week that Rob Manfred apparently spread the news himself that a team once a game would be able to send up any hitter, no matter where they are in the lineup, for one at bat.
No, I just need to stop you right there because I feel like the league and Manfred himself throw these changes out there just to gather like what the perception would be, see what the reaction is, obviously. But at the same time, and I'm a baseball purist, so maybe not everyone agrees with me. I want to go 5 years without a single change. Like they already shortened the pitch clock after the first season. So last year it went down even more. Like you can't like make those changes every year. Like you've got to let it play out and see the results after like a 5-year sample size. I want to go a few years without discussing a change to the game of baseball unless it's absolutely necessary.
You're not going to get it. You know that, right? You're not going to get 5 years because, well, at least you're going to have to wait another 5 years in about 2 years because in about 2 years, you're going to get the ABS.
I know.
Automatic ball strike. They're already testing it out this year in spring training. They're going to make tweaks to it. You're probably going to get some sort of challenge system. I don't think they're going to totally get rid of umpires. So maybe start the clock then because from there on, I think any other rule change is probably going to be crazy. Like this publicity stunt. And I think that's what it is. Like that is so far gone. And I think Peter Apple from our network, Just Baseball, pretty much said like, hey, this is a Savannah Bananas rule. Like that's
I love that quote. That
good
great.
for the Savannah Bananas. This is not good for sending Shohei Ohtani up in any inning to clear the bases. Like it just doesn't work like that. That's not how the game is played. And I know I'm like the old man standing on the front lawn right now, but like that's where I draw the line, man. Like I can deal with the guy on second base, I can deal with the pitch clock, I can deal with some variation of ABS, but we got to draw the line somewhere.
Yeah, 100%. I don't even think that makes you like an old man yelling at the clouds, whatever people want to say. Or I call myself a baseball purist, but it's because I love the game of baseball. And like, I understand like the average fan doesn't have the attention span with baseball that I do. But at the same time, there is a line to where you're doing too much. And like, this is absolutely one of those lines. So I don't know. We'll see what comes of this. I know they're floating this out there. It's like a make baseball relevant during the month of November, December type of news drop. But hopefully with that gets forgotten here in the next week when we get the winter meeting starting on Monday or Sunday. I think it starts on Sunday actually, and then runs through the week. So be a lot to talk about.
It's going to be a lot to talk about and a lot more moves that are going to happen after the meetings, as we keep saying. Last thing I want to address, and I'm only going to spend 1 minute on this or less. This show never gives financial advice unless it is outliving your Macy's credit card. Okay. So unless you have a Macy's credit card and you can outlive it, don't follow our financial advice.
Yeah.
That being said, we're launching something called Bucko Coin coming up soon. So just send us all of your money. We're going to invest it in Bucko Coin, and we're taking this thing to the moon, baby.
Also share your social security number. That might help to expedite the process. But other than that, yeah, you get, when we win, you win. So spend money on Bucko Coin, and let's make this the next currency of the state of Pennsylvania at the least.
Yeah, you've heard of Bitcoin, you've heard of Dogecoin, but have you heard of Bucko Coin? It's the real deal. Go to buckobanter@gmail.com. Shoot us your social, mother's maiden name, the street that you grew up on, and then your first pet. And we will send you 10 free Bucko Coin. Guaranteed. All right.
Yep. It's a deal of a lifetime.
It's a deal of a lifetime. Let's get into baseball, Scott.
Yep.
All that being said, I'm glad we were able to get that off our chest. Around the Central.
Yep.
Some big stuff happened this week, right? We'll start with the two smaller signings. I wouldn't call them small because these two players got some change in their pocket. Cubs signed left-handed pitcher Matt Boyd to a 2-year, $29 million contract. And then the Mets signed right-handed pitcher Frankie Montas to a 2-year, $34 million contract. Big contract. 2 years, $34 million. Kind of setting the market early here for starting pitching. So that's not the big one, though. There's another pitcher.
Yeah.
Something we talked about this week with Noah on potentially bringing this guy back for a cheaper price. And guess what? The price of the brick went up with Aroldis Chapman. By 200. He's just going to keep doing it, man. Aroldis Chapman signed with the Boston Red Sox for a year, $10.75 million, man. He's been on 7 teams, I believe. He's like the immaculate grid wet dream. It's incredible. But hey, he had a hell of a year. People want to use the term glaze. We just glazed him last episode on him being the Pirates' best reliever, throwing 105 at his age, always being available, right? Never being injured. He's the all-time leader in strikeouts for lefty Pirate relievers in 1 year. Wow,
that's impressive. Yeah. I will say this. I feel like he wants to just do these 1-year deals until he can't anymore. And he's just going to, it's just like an interview or an audition where he's going to just go check out every city and check out the local gyms, because I think I might have mentioned it, but he was a member of my gym downtown Pittsburgh, and I would see him in there every day. And the Pirates have a gym in their own gym, but I've heard he works out like 2 or 3 times a day, and probably explains why he's in the shape that he is. And he is still able to throw 104 in the latter half of his career. So, it feels like just like like a tour and like an end of career tour for Aroldis Chapman. He's just going to check out every city.
It doesn't seem like it's going to end soon.
No, not at all. He's definitely got a few more years left in him. But I will say this: we said this on the episode with Noah. He signed for 10.75. Which, I think the Pirates signed him for 10.25, 10.5, something like that. I think we can upgrade our bullpen, especially with left-handed arms, by signing more than one arm for the price of what he signed. So while I was happy with his performance this year as a Pirate and would have welcomed him back, I think we have other options, and we could do it at a more fiscally responsible level.
Sure. I just want to clear one thing up. I said he's the all-time Pirate. It's reliever for lefties. That's for a single season record for strikeouts. I think it's 96. So,
wow, he was like good 99, right?
Huh?
Didn't he have 99? He just missed 100, I thought, right?
It was. Yeah, I don't have the top number here, and I'm not gonna harp on it because he is no longer a Pirate. So, we move on just like Aroldis Chapman. All right. And with that being said, we are going to grade the bullpen this year.
Yeah.
I think this is the last grade that we have. And I also just realized we have not graded Andrew McCutchen yet. So we should probably
Oh,
throw him in there at the end here because we're not going to have anyone else left to grade. So we'll do that on the fly. But I have some names here that were consistent in the bullpen throughout the year or that were significant contributors. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of names that I left off this list. I'm not sure about your list, Scotty, but I'm sure you have similar ones to me. And if you have anything extra, you could rattle them off. Let's start with Chapman, though, while we're on the subject. I gave him an A. 5-5, 3.79 ERA, 14 saves when he wasn't set up to be the closer at all. It was 98 strikeouts, Scott.
yeah,
98.
I was close.
I had it in my own notes. For lefty reliever, single season Pirates history, as I mentioned, always available to pitch. Expected batting average of 165. To be honest, on the games that he blew, other than like the classic Chapman roller coaster ride meltdown, he got very unlucky. Like almost borderline unhittable pitches. I believe it was Wilson Contreras
Oh,
and
that Josh Bell one was
Josh
unbelievable.
Bell in that key series against the Diamondbacks. Like just heartbreaking stuff. But you know what? Like he was a significant contributor. I somewhat wish they probably should have fielded a little bit more calls for him at the deadline. But at that
Yeah.
time, you're thinking you're going to win with Brian De La Cruz. So be it. But Aroldis Chapman, I gave him an A. I'm trying to be stingy with my grade. It was very close to an A plus just because of the situation that we were put in this year. We were very lucky to have him because of how bad the bullpen was at certain times throughout the season.
Yeah, so he had that rough stretch there for a period where we were like at the games and nervous every time he came into the game. That was like for a couple weeks though, in think midsummer and beginning of summer. So he also got unlucky at times, but I'm giving him an A because he was such a big impact on some of our young arms. Luis Ortiz, we've talked about this over and over again, especially with Noah. Luis Ortiz, Dennis Santana, other Latin guys. He was such a big mentor and was a stable force for most of the season in the bullpen. So I'm going to go A for Chapman and wish him the best of luck in Boston. And hopefully we can, rebuild him in the aggregate in some way or another.
Absolutely, man. Why don't you get us into the next arm?
Yeah, so next we'll go with David Bednar, the hometown kid. He had a rough season to say the least. I'm going to go D or D minus, I guess, if that's even a grade. I'm going to go D minus because it was his worst season, and I'm hoping it's an anomaly going forward. He didn't ramp up, didn't get the proper ramp up for the season, and he struggled to find any mode of consistency throughout the year. So I'm hoping it was just a matter of him just not being ready and then mismanaging him at the beginning of the season, which is also another topic to talk about if that was the issue. But I've been very vocal about Bednar being a guy that we missed out on his trade value because he's a hometown kid, and now we just need to root for him to get back to somewhat of his top tier form so we can have another back end high leverage guy in our bullpen, and maybe Brent Strom is a guy that like gets that out of him again. We'll see.
Yeah, I think that's partially why they made that move for Strom, because you missed out on the trade value, and that's not to say you're getting guys back that are going to contribute to the bullpen. So you probably have the same issue if Bednar is gone anyway, right? So yeah, we need the guy to get better, but man, a 5.77 ERA, 3-8, 58 Ks, expected ERA of 4.37, man. So like, just it wasn't there. And here's the thing that made him special as a closer. Usually guys have like their go-to pitch, right? Whether that be like a cutter or a changeup or a slider, or just like gassing it up at the top of the zone. He had the ability to hit you with 3 different pitches with a ton of induced break on them or movement at the top of the zone that was going to keep you off balance and potentially blow you away. So like that was his calling card, right? It wasn't like any specific pitch. You're not saying like, oh, Bednar is coming in, he's going to pump it up to 100 every single pitch and just like be your classic Ricky Vaughn closer. No, he's going to come in, he's going to throw a bowling ball fastball, he's going to be able to snap off a curveball, that looks like it's coming in at the top of the zone and falls in for a strike, but he just didn't have the feel for it. And when you don't have the feel, you almost become less of a pitcher and more of a thrower, right? And then you're missing your spots. And we saw that a ton where he just got rocked because he would get down in counts and then he's trying to get ahead with a fastball that's not going to blow you by, and it's not going to graze the top of the zone. It's going to stay middle. And that's the worst place to be in a high leverage situation. So yeah, we need him to get back to punching tickets and solidifying that back end, because if David Bednar is good, this team has a better chance of moving forward past that hump that they can't get by right now. So
I totally agree, and I don't want to spend too much time on him, but I just want to say one more thing. I compare high leverage relievers to field goal kickers in football. Like, you've got one job. You're coming in to close out the game or hold a team. Field goal, the kicker is coming in to put points on the board. You're like the last resort, all right? And you have one job. And so when things are bad, it can really impact you mentally. Like, it takes a special type of person to be in that role. And I just felt like how bad it was at the beginning and how he was never able to get into a rhythm. Mentally, he clearly wasn't there. So I'm really hoping that he regains some confidence and comes back into the season, because we're going to need him next year.
Yeah, I gave him an F for what it's worth.
You gave him okay.
I gave him an F, man. It was, right. I mean, it was bad. It was bad, right?
It was bad, yeah.
We can't. I mean, he lost his job. He went from a 2-time All-Star to losing his job. So, and he wasn't particularly great in the other roles that he was in either. So, you know what? I'm rooting for him. Hopefully we get a better David Bednar this year. Let's go to Colin Holderman. I gave him an A-. Okay. I struggled maybe with like a B+ just because of some little struggles. But then if you break it down, man, like, still a fantastic year. And he should have been an all-star at the halfway point, right? His ERA was like below 1 at the halfway point. He, in March and April, 1.35 ERA, May at a 0.77 ERA, June 1.59 ERA, and then July and August is where it gets sticky, 5.79 and then 18.
Yeah.
Right. So, and then September, October, he got back to form at 1.93. So he finished the season with a 3.16 ERA, better than most people in the bullpen, 51 and 1/3 innings pitched, 56 Ks, 1.31 whip. I just think there was a little bit of a wrist injury there that maybe hindered him halfway through the year. He wasn't able to snap off that nasty slider that he's able to throw to keep guys off balance. But here's another thing. You mentioned it last episode. Like, can Strom turn this guy into a high leverage guy? Can we throw him in the 8th inning? And I wanted to break down the numbers. So you go leverage, low, medium, high. He had 18 innings pitched in high leverage situations, 20 in medium, and 13 1/3 in low. In low leverage situations, opposing batters had a 191 batting average. In medium leverage situations, they had a 232 batting average. And then in high leverage situations, a 169 batting average. Now, that doesn't mean the earn run average was there in the high leverage situation, because he was walking some batters and getting a little bit unlucky in bad situations, but he can do it.
Yeah.
Right. Like, he has the stuff that could be there in a high leverage situation. And I still feel comfortable throwing him out there in the 7th, 8th inning.
I'm going to go B+, and only because his highs were really high. His lows were extremely low, and they came at the very wrong time of the season. And I'm not going to sit here and say like Colin Holderman was the reason that we fell out of contention. We obviously had a lot of lineup issues, and the offense had holes, to say the least. But he definitely didn't help down the stretch, especially right after the All-Star break, through the trade deadline in the first couple weeks of August. Like, those were his worst moments, and they were really bad. And so I guess what I'm taking from that is, we know we discussed this with Noah or someone else, that he had wrist issues that were never fully resolved. I want to see a more durable Colin Holderman going into 2025. I want to see a guy that can go a full 162 and give us those meaningful innings April to September. I know it's a marathon, not a sprint, and guys are going to go through spurts, but we need him to be able to make the adjustments and limit the damage, if you will, especially in a crucial time, like the end of July and beginning of August. So I'm gonna go B plus. It was a great season, and he should have been an all-star. But I'm really looking forward to Colin Holderman under Brent Strom and going into 2025 as a potential high leverage guy.
Who would you rather have right now, Colin Holderman or Daniel Vogelback?
Holderman.
Yeah. Okay.
Easily.
So great trade. All right.
Yeah.
Like, listen, we're still on the winning side of things, and like you said, had overall a great year. Why don't you get us into the next arm, Scott?
All right. So we have Bednar, Santana, and Holderman. Let's go with Carmen Mlodzinski next. Let's go with Carmen Mlodzinski. This is a guy, he was a comp round pick, so technically like a first round pick. He was like pick 30 to 35, something like that. He out of South Carolina. He was developed as a starter, came up as a reliever. There was a lot of hope going for him into this season that he was going to be the next great bullpen arm for this Pirates team. But he did not make the opening day roster. He went to AAA. It seemed like he was being disciplined. There was a lot of different rumors out there about his character and all that. He really like, as soon as he came up to the big leagues, he found himself, and it wasn't right away, but I feel like every appearance he looked better and better. And sometimes I felt like he was overused. We really didn't have an option in certain spots, but he's a guy too that I think is only going to thrive under a Brent Strom, mentorship, if you will. So I think he's a guy that we can look at in 2025 as hey, we need a spot starter or an opener. Like he did that multiple times this year, and I thought he did it pretty well. Or, hey, we have a big spot here in the 6th inning, 7th inning, and we need you to come in and clean it up. I think he played that role very well. I'm going to give him a B, just a flat B.
Yeah, that's what I had, man. Interesting thing. First half and second half, same ERA, 3.38.
Yeah.
Altogether, not bad. Obviously, you saw the rough patches. And here's where I think the eye test, it just doesn't pass here because a lot of people saw some meltdowns. There's a lot of walks and lack of control. At home, so in front of the home crowd, versus right-handed batters, they had a 280 batting average. So maybe that's where like a little bit of like, hey, did he have a good year? Did he have a bad year? Comes in because you're not doing it at home on a righty matchup. But like for the most part, I think they were pretty easy with him this year. He was mostly thrown in low leverage situations. He had 29 innings there, medium 16 2/3, and then high only 5 innings. But if we're talking stuff, right, some of the best stuff on the team, he could pump it up. He could spin it a little bit. I think Carmen Mlodzinski is going to be a staple in the bullpen. I think moving forward, I think it's a piece that you don't want to go into next year without, but you just need to hope that he keeps developing into a consistent player and obviously needs to stay healthy and on the roster for a majority of the year.
Yeah, agreed.
Let's go to Kyle Nicholas. This is one I'm excited to talk about. I gave Kyle a B minus. Obviously, I mean, he had a 3.95 ERA. I think Kyle has the best stuff on the team as it lies right now.
Okay. I would not argue with that. Outside of Skeens,
I mean, like let's okay. Let me be more specific then. Kyle has the best stuff in the bullpen right now.
Not even remotely close between him and everybody else. Yeah.
We're talking a guy that has a 4-seam, a curve, and a slider, and the 4-seam can get up to 100. He could pump it up, man. And the other stuff, I mean, if he harnesses the control, this is an all-star. This is a guy with all the talent in the world. He needs, I don't know if it's a composure thing, if it's mental, if it's just a lack of experience, but obviously he has his issues with control. And there was times where he was lights out and there was times where he could not, hit the broadside of a barn. So we just need to, again, development. And the Pirates have shown, at least with pitchers, that they are able to take a step in the right direction. He had some reverse splits though, right? Versus lefties, 195 batting average versus righties, 281. But like that's not great. 94th percentile in velo, 87th percentile in extension, and then mostly thrown in low leverage situations, just short of 40 innings this year. In the high leverage situations, only 2 innings pitch, wasn't great. So again, a guy that you hope takes a step in the right direction, is able to, I mean, we don't need him throwing 100 miles per hour, but if he's able to utilize a fastball, curve, and a slider successfully, then like you're talking again, another like 7th, 8th inning guy.
100%. The 281 average against righties, I maybe righties see the fastball out of his hand a little bit better. I don't know. That's something that we could maybe dig into, but I think this is a guy that I'm going to make a bold prediction. Kyle Nicholas is the future closer of this team. Future closer.
Clip it.
I think he is going to have multiple saves this year. And I think and I've said this for every guy we've talked about so far, but I'm most excited for Brent Strom getting his hands on Kyle Nicholas. Pause. But I'm I seriously am. I'm gonna get canceled for that. Just kidding. But he's got the best stuff, like you said, and that was definitely something I couldn't agree more with. He's got the best stuff, some of the best stuff in the organization, especially in the bullpen.
Yeah,
and it's all about control when he's still young. And I'm just so excited for Kyle Nicholas. I think we haven't seen even remotely the best of him, and I think he's well on his way to being a future closer, setup man in this league for years to come.
Yeah.
So B plus. Agree. I'm going to go B plus. That's mostly on future projection.
Okay. Fair enough. You got another arm here, Scott?
I do. So let's go into Luis Ortiz.
Beautiful.
Did we talk about Luis Ortiz? It's been a while since we did grades. Did we talk about him on the starting grades?
We did, but we could also break it down to a reliever.
Yeah, let's do that too. So the bullpen this year was disappointing to me as a whole, because it was an area where we came into the season, had a lot of optimism, and it kind of let us down a little bit. But that being said, there were some bright spots, and Luis Ortiz was one of them. I'm going to give him a B plus, because he was a guy that coming out of spring training, we were like, he's going to be the fifth starter. But then we talked to Noah, and I mean, this was, we saw this in the first few months. Maybe less is more with him. Maybe letting him go into the bullpen, maybe play the long relief role where he's coming in throwing more than 1 inning, 2 to 3, and cleaning up after a day where we heavily used the bullpen. He did really well in that role, and I think he is versatile, where he can go back and forth between the rotation if we need him, and play that long relief role. So I think Chapman played a big impact on him this year. He was a guy that showed a lot of promise in 22, and then 23 we were like kind of disappointed by his performance. Chapman comes in and he kind of found himself, and he was able to work himself back into the rotation. So I'm going to go B plus, because while he was in the bullpen, he was at the time in the first half of the season a bright spot and a guy that we could lean on to provide some quality innings.
As a reliever, he had just shy of 50 innings pitch. Here's something I found interesting. First time through the order as a reliever. Remember, he was doing, he was our long man, right? He was throwing 4 or 5 innings at a time coming out of the pen. 217 batting average first time through the order. Second time through the order as a reliever, 324. Third time, 429 as a reliever. Okay. As a starter, first time through the order, 200. Second time, 183. Third time, 236.
Interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. I think he just found his groove, man. Like, this is a guy who probably had the best arm talent in the Pirates organization at one point, where he's able to pump it up, max velo 101 as a starting pitcher, big body. And then he made a conscious effort to find more control and harness the four seam along with the sinker and the cutter and the changeup, and kind of turn himself into a Lance Lynn type pitcher, right? Where
fastball heavy.
He's going to be fastball heavy, but it's going to be different looks every single time, where it's going to come from the same arm slot. It's going to look the same halfway through, and then it's going to break in one direction or another. And that's where he's going to find his success. And he doesn't have to throw it 100 miles per hour to do that, right? So there was an effort to like, hey, let's sit 93 to 94, right? Or even 92 to 94, and then get in on the hands with the cutter and like work low with the changeup for a put away if we have to, and then throw the sinker a lot. Like, and then you leave up the top of the zone for a chase. I think he had a fantastic year. I think overall, I would give him an A minus. Like overall, if we're just talking value, he was a starter, he was a reliever. The Pirates needed Luis Ortiz this year, and I think for the most part, he delivered. Granted, I mean, he was susceptible to some meltdowns here and there, but like you're looking at it as a whole, he was great. So it'll be interesting next year to see where he slots in. I think going into the season, that's his spot to lose.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I could see that, and I love the grade, and I think he's a guy that I'm excited to see what his role is next year. So
Yeah,
let's go on to our next guy.
yeah. This is my last guy that I have on the list.
Okay.
Dennis Santana. I gave him an A plus, man. I gave him an A plus, and here's why. And it's not even partially because of him. I think it's just if you look at the totality of the circumstances. Dennis Santana did not start the year on the Pirates. He was claimed off waivers from the Yankees when they DFA'd Jose Fernandez. In the first half, okay, he had a 6.05 ERA. In the second half of the season, he had a 1.36 ERA. In July, he was 0.66, okay? He never got above 2.4 for the rest of the season. Lefties had a 171 average against him. He was dominant. Like he was our guy. He was our Shelton quite literally said he's been our best reliever in the second half. He was like, I know Chapman was great and he stepped into a bigger role, but in a time where Holderman was struggling, Bednar obviously was struggling, you had to move Chapman out of the 7-8 spot. Like he was very, very good. And maybe an A plus is generous, but I just think for a move like that where we were questioning the hell out of it.
Yeah.
At first, this seemed like the most unnecessary thing ever to do. And it turned out well. And like, hopefully he can build off of that and be a good part of this bullpen. I think we forget the name Dennis Santana when we're talking about guys that can contribute next year. And along with him and Nicholas and Holderman and Majinski, like, and adding Moretta to the mix, like short of lefties in that bullpen, you're looking pretty solid on paper. It's just a matter of picking off where you left off.
I think the move at first, it makes sense because I don't know. GMBC maybe doesn't have the best track record with these waiver claims outside of Joey Barton and then just Dennis Santana this year. But DFAing a guy like Jose Hernandez, who was a lefty where we had limited lefties, Barucki was hurt most of the year, and then Chapman, it was like, what are we doing here? And Hernandez wasn't even that. His numbers in the big leagues were actually better than they were in AAA. So I don't know. He's a pleasant surprise. I'm gonna go B plus. I love that you were aggressive with that grade because I was a big fan of Dennis Santana this year. I thought he was great, especially in the second half. And I hope he's back because he brings a fun energy to that bullpen, and he could be a solid middle reliever for us going forward.
Also, the best walkout song.
Yeah,
on the team.
He's a New Yorker through and through.
Yeah, so you have 21 Savage as your walkout music. You're okay in my books. That's all I have for the bullpen, Scott. If you want to rattle off some honorable mentions here, those were like the big names that I thought were the most consistent throughout the year.
I'm not going to bother giving a D to Jalen Beeks or, I thought Josh Fleming got a kind of a rough hand. I thought he was better than many people thought in the role that he played coming in facing lefties. I would have given him as high as like a C plus maybe. And then Joey Wentz is like an arm that we still have on board. He has high pedigree due to like his draft position. He was a first round pick. He hasn't really worked out as a starter, but he's more of like a long reliever now, and he's a lefty, so he's one of the few lefties we have left in the organization. Other than that, man, I don't really have much else with the bullpen. I think there's going to be some moves these next few weeks where we're going to see some maybe 1 year, 2 year deals, 1 year most likely for left-handed arms, but I think we have a good base going into 2025.
Dude, I can't believe we just forgot a name.
Who do we forget?
We forgot the biggest lefty reliever on the team.
Why am I drawing a blank right now?
Rowdy Tellez.
Yes, Rowdy.
Can we give the Rowdy grade?
I'll give him a C minus.
Perfect. That's beautiful. We don't need to spend any more time on that.
All right.
Amazing. And then let's give a grade for Andrew McCutchen real quick, man. I'm just off the bat. I'll give it an A minus. He hit 20 balls into the stands this year. I think he thrived for the most part in the leadoff role. Not saying Kutch probably likes hitting in the leadoff spot, but it worked with him getting on base a lot, taking pride in drawing a lot of walks. I know he's kind of pigeonholed to that DH spot, which could be an issue moving forward, depending on who they bring in, because he's very limited on defense. But having Kutch back is awesome. I'm not going to spend too much time like looking into the faults of Andrew McCutchen at the moment, just because of the value that he adds to the team. And for the most part, he was one of our best hitters this year. So A minus.
Okay. Yeah. I'm going to go B. And I don't know, maybe people
Let's hear it.
A little conservative. He was above replacement level. Like, he was not one of our problems. He wasn't like a huge bright spot. Like, I mean, maybe he was one of the better offensive players compared. I mean, this was in a really bad offense, but he was fine. He was fine. He wasn't a problem. He also wasn't like a major, I don't know, star in the offense.
Yeah, of course not.
He definitely moved. He definitely improved the lineup when he went to the leadoff spot. And I don't know if he necessarily likes the leadoff spot, but definitely was our best option for the rest of the year. But we'll see if they bring him back or not. I think they can get a little bit creative this offseason and maybe get younger and get creative with that DH spot, because they have a lot of bats, especially at the catcher position, and guys that they're going to be moving around. But he had a perfectly fine year for a 38-year-old, 37-year-old.
Yeah, I agree with that, man. Maybe I'm just a little gung ho, and I love Pittsburgh too much, and you just absolutely hate it. So
I hate Pittsburgh.
We'll leave it at that. Let's leave off with this, man. There's been a lot of rumors that the Pirates are going to have a different offseason, right? All these MLB Scoops accounts and all these insiders that you should definitely trust on X or Blue Sky or Instagram or wherever you get your news, saying that the Pirates are going to shock the world, that they're going to spend money, that they are going to make moves in order to improve this team.
They should,
absolutely. But I think, like, for one, I think we hear this most off seasons, like, oh, the Pirates could make a big moves, or like the Pirates are checking in on like this guy. I'll believe it when I see it, right? Yeah. You could hype me up all you want. I know I'm smart enough not to fall for it, Scott. Not this time.
No, I'm not falling for it, man. I mean, I saw a report the other day. I think it was an MLB Marathon account. I've completely like stopped paying attention to MLB Scoops because I have yet to find one where they're right. But the Marathon account said that they're gonna have a different type of offseason where they're gonna like really be aggressive, and they're looking at guys. They named 3 guys: Walker Buehler, Max Kepler, and Ha-Seong Kim. I mean, all 3 of those would be amazing. I don't think they're getting all 3 of those guys. I'd like to get just one of them. But, let's just, outside of the accounts that are trying to break news on Twitter, let's just say real quick, I think we both agree on the fact that, yeah, you have Paul Skeens. You have a really good young core in the rotation. You should spend money. The time is now to make this team a lot better. And I mean a lot better. And it should look a lot different come February.
I don't think you make this many front office changes without making the necessary personnel changes, right? Like,
100%.
Yeah, coaching goes a long way. Having the right guys in the right spots goes a long way, but the product on the field is the product on the field. Yeah. Is it good or is it not? And you need to supplement these very good moves. I'll give them credit for that, with athletes, with guys that are going to produce, and we'll see if that happens, man. But time will tell. We got like you said, we got the meetings, the winter meetings coming up here soon, and I think some big announcements are going to be coming in the baseball world. So stay tuned, and definitely stay tuned to Bucko Banter, because big things are coming our way. Hopefully we'll have some good announcements coming. Scott's wearing his Bucko Banter black hoodie with yellow script. I'm wearing my Bucko Banter gray hoodie with black script. You could find it at the Bucko Banter store. Get a loved one a holiday gift. Show them that you love them with Bucko Banter merchandise. And we'll probably do some more deals if you missed out on the Black Friday deal for the holiday season. And then if you follow us on X, we've been giving away awesome cards. We've partnered with The Closet. You could find them on our X page. Go follow them. And if you follow them and you follow us, you have a chance to win a pretty cool card, right? We're giving away tonight an Andrew McCutchen relic card. We gave away the first time a Jared Triolo numbered gold card. And then for our listeners, if you want a little bit of a head start, tomorrow is an interesting one, Scott. I like this one. We're going to give away a Drew Maggi signed Collegiate National Team USA card. Boom.
Pretty cool card.
Pretty cool card. This is from 2010.
Wow.
2010, man. So if you like the story behind Drew Maggi, definitely give us a follow. Give The Closet a follow, and a lot of interesting stuff along the way. Give us a follow on all social media. We're going to do a mailbag soon, so send all your questions. Watch on YouTube, subscribe, leave a comment. If you listen to the episode, we love you. We cannot express that enough. Download the episode, leave a 5-star review, and just keep supporting the show.
Absolutely.
All right. Well,
what do you say?
Until
Adam?
Next time, raise it.
Raise it.
Rockin' 101, she compliment my taste. Whiskey in my lemonade, cause I like the way it tastes. Best seats at the Pirates game, they let me run the base. Yeah, my time is like my money, cause I can't afford to waste. Wifey is a lawyer, take my date to my dates, or the steak by the plates. And